Hell yeah. Dude,
Hell
I like
yeah.
that. That wasn't bad. I'm pretty happy with that. What do you think? What do you think, Arch?
Should I keep my face like this all the time though?
Hey, listen. It's not easy to like. It's not fun to sit and like edit the videos and make those screenshot pictures and stuff like that. So like, I thought that was one of our better ones. So I mean, if you want me to see if I can find a better facial expression picture of you, I definitely will.
I think
love
you
that.
should, because I think everyone would be looking at me like, "What is wrong with him?"
Cyber,
Like,
I'm telling you right now, brother. If you saw your facial expressions in some of the other screenshots I've taken of our videos, dude, believe me, you would pick that one over the other ones any day of the week.
oh well, I still want to see the other ones.
I've got screenshot pictures of you where you're like wide open and like it looks like you're about to like go down on a dude or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I see.
so Arch, what did you think of that intro that I threw together? Not bad, huh?
That was rocking. I like the energy. I was not expecting that, but I'm pumped now to talk about this.
Did that get your adrenaline going a little bit?
Absolutely. I was not expecting that. That threw me for a loop, and I love it.
That's my intro music that when I first started podcasting. My other podcast, Night Owl Productions Presents, I have a second podcast, not just the MCU's Bleeding Edge. That's my intro music.
Nice. I like it. It's energetic. I love it.
Yeah. I'm not really much of like a metal guy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but I like, you know how it is when you're trying to find like intro music or whatever, I didn't want anything boring. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, all right, everybody. Hey, what's up? It's the MCU's Bleeding Edge. As usual, you can see I dropped a professional introduction and everything by just like, and continuing our conversation right from like the studio. As always, I'm waiting for you to start popping up and filling up the comment section so we can have people to engage with. I know that some of our usual suspects will pop up, like David from Sakar. He'll be here, I'm sure, as always. He's a loyal, diehard supporter. But anyways, this is the MCU's Bleeding Edge. This is our Black Widow review, finally. As always, we are, consistently, without fail, live or die, whether he's like on his deathbed or not, Cybernetic Shark is here to co-host. He co-hosts in such an effortless manner that he could literally, his energy is just infectious as a co-host. And he's very reliable guy. I tell you that right now. It's nice. It's nice to have reliable people when you make content, but we also have, of course, I don't know what to call him at this point, a friend to the show, I guess. We've got, how do they pronounce it over there on Sakar? Is it the Arch Stanton? Or A Arch Stanton or something like that?
My full name, and if you're a movie fan, you may get the reference, but I never reveal it. But it's Arch Stanton. But you can just call me Arch Stanton. There's a stutter in there for a reason. If you're a movie fan, you might know why. But
I do.
Okay, good. But no, good to be back, guys. I'm sorry.
And if I know, Cyber knows.
Yeah.
Because that's his deal.
I know.
Because that's his deal. Cyber's the movie guy. If you haven't noticed the big collection. But yeah, Arch, it's great to see you, man.
It's a great pun.
It really is. We missed you, man. We missed your energy. We missed your contributions, man.
I miss being on, guys, and I did not want to be gone. I've unfortunately been tied up with a lot of work obligations, I suppose you could say, and then after social obligations that I just couldn't get away from for the last couple of weeks. I tried my best, I really did, but it's great to be back. I can't wait to talk to you guys, and it's good to see you. I'm really happy to be back.
Oh, it's good to see you too, man. It's good to see you. You're a friendly face, and I was just talking to your brother about you being gone and everything and whatnot and everything the other day. It's very funny, Cyber. I'm talking to David, right, Arch's brother, the other day, and David decides to finally drop on me after I've been knowing Arch for like 2 months or whatever. That him and I've been talking to David for a while too. Him and I are pretty close friends, actually, believe it or not. Already, him and I just hit off like immediately, like. And he's like, yeah, Arch is my brother, just so you know. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like
literal brother?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, you mean like he's your good friend? I'm like, no. He's like, no, he's my brother, bro. I'm like, what? Like, come on, dude. Like, I know you couldn't have told me.
I'm older, but at this point, we're old enough that it's irrelevant. So we're at that age.
Yeah, it was a funny conversation. He's like, Yeah, he's like, he said to me, he texted me like the day before or whatever, that him and I talked on the phone, and he's like, yeah, me and Arch had a good conversation on the phone or whatever. And I'm thinking, like, I didn't know they were brothers. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Arch is a cool guy. Like, I'm glad, I'm glad you had a nice conversation with him and whatnot. I'm sure it was great. So then I'm talking to him on the phone the next day, and I'm like, yeah, so how was your conversation with Arch? I'm like, I talk to Arch, right? Once in a while. And he's like, yeah, Arch has told me. I'm like, he's like, he's my brother, right? I'm like, no, dude, I didn't have a friggin' clue.
A slightly funny story, and I don't want to get into like a whole side thing about this, but we don't look alike. If you saw us right beside each other, you'd tell the difference. But we look close enough that we had this. We both used to work in hotels, by the way, and I was working around Panama City, and he was working in Atlanta one time, and we had this guy who had checked into my hotel one night, and then showed up to his hotel the next night and was looking at him and called him by my name, and he was like, wait, what? Like, he was so confused. He thought we were the same person, but just a funny little side there. Yeah,
Well,
but
that's funny.
Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm just going to really quick send Yvonne I'm going to send Yvonne a restream link, just in case for some reason she's not able to get on right now, because she's on Facebook. So let me see what I can do here.
That's like me and my brothers. Both my two brothers, we look similar, but not like identical like some brothers do. So like a lot of people don't realize when they see them, they're my brothers, because I'm so much older than them, because I'm 10 and 15 years older than both of them. So we kind of have a little different looks a little bit, but you can still tell that we're brothers. But I get that same thing like you and your brother do, Arch.
nice. Yeah, he's into a lot of the same stuff I'm on here. I kind of introduced him to the site, Sakar, for instance. He knew about this, and he was interested in coming on and talk to you guys at some point. But he's got his own unique takes on stuff, so he's a good detail guy to listen to. He's probably got a lot deeper comic background than I do too. So if we're into comic book stuff, he's got a pretty good knowledge of that. So yeah, you'll get to know him. I know Jeff already has a pretty good working relationship with him, which is fantastic. But I think you guys will enjoy him.
Yeah, I'd love to get him on. I really would. I'd love to get him on. I've discussed it with him, and basically his take on it is that he says that his internet is so jacked up that like it wouldn't even be worth it or something like that.
Yeah, he just bought a new house, so which is awesome for him. But he's having he's having some internet issues there, which is a little unfortunate. He used to be on all the time, but yeah. Anyway, he'll I'm sure he's gonna get it worked out. So hopefully he'll be on.
Hey, look who's here! Hey, what's up, stranger?
Guys, sorry, I lost track of time.
That's okay. When I sent you that link just now, did that remind you?
No, my husband's like, Yvonne, aren't you supposed to be on a podcast? I was like, I totally forgot.
Oh, did he actually see us on? And he was like, oh, hey, you're supposed to be on there?
No, he saw the time. Saw the time. He's like, you're supposed to be on. What are you doing? I was like, oh my goodness, everybody shut up right now in the house.
Arch, have you met Yvonne before?
Who?
Have you met Yvonne before? Arch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, well, at least I've seen her.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I honestly couldn't remember, to tell you the truth. Like sometimes the shows just become jumbled after a while. But essentially, everybody, just in case you don't remember, this is Yvonne Rempel, and she is of course the wonderful host of the podcast The Road to Damascus, which I would completely urge to check out. She has made more podcast episodes than the MCU's Bleeding Edge has, and she does some really good shows. She has some great guests on. I believe she makes her podcast through Anchor, just like we do.
Yeah, I do mine through Anchor. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna plug Anchor or anything like that, because I'm just not gonna do it. I did do a plug for Anchor the other day for the podcast, because they offered me that that plug deal. You know what I'm talking about, Yvonne. And I tried to record it, and it wouldn't work. Like when I loaded it to record, it just froze. So I just gave up. But anyways, obviously, just in case you all don't know, if this is your first time checking out the MCU's Bleeding Edge, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are like drastically trying to reach our first goal of 500 subscribers so that we can then move on to our 1,000 subscribers and actually get monetized on YouTube, which I would hope would be every YouTuber's goal at some point, right? I mean, why be on here if you're not going to try to get monetized? So please subscribe to us. We would really appreciate it. And those of you who catch this in the video version, we really appreciate you. Of course, we have a podcast. We're through Anchor. You can find us on any podcast distribution platform. If I'm not on the platform that you're on, please message me at the MCU's Bleeding Edge and let me know so I can put our shit on there. All right. Cause I'm trying to like make sure that we are like world renowned and everything. Those of you who are catching us on Trovo or BK Live or Daily Motion, or LinkedIn or, you know, D Live or whatever, you know, all of you on Twitch. I know there's not many of you. And really appreciate all of you for coming on, not just our YouTube folks, but I just want to mention again that Arch comes from the Podcast of Champions. I guest on there quite often actually these days. And it's also a podcast. It's a YouTube channel. And I would definitely encourage you to check out their website /forum, sakar.freeforums.net. I'm on there. Cyber's on there. We like it. It's cool. You know, if you're a geek guy, if you're a nerd type person, it's an ideal kind of scenario. Arch is one of the co-founding members.
No, we just lost him.
So
Okay, guys,
Jeff out there.
This is what happens, and the girls take over. This is what it is. It's a Black Widow review, and the girls take over.
Well, hey, if we're going to do a Black Widow review, I think it's only fair that you have like at least one woman on the panel. I mean, right? Like, would it be like chauvinistic if we just did the review with like Arch and Cyber and myself? Would that be like, would the feminists be out there to looking to kill us at that point?
No, Black Widow can hold her own against men. So I think like whatever you have to say is not going to really like bother her too much. I don't.
Hey, look, in the reality of superhero like movies and whatnot, and the MCU like cinematic universe, like Black Widow has beat a lot of dudes' asses throughout like the stretch of her like run. You know what I mean? Like she might have kicked more dudes' asses than any other character like in the MCU, other than like maybe Captain America.
No.
True.
So anyway, all right, everybody. So that's basically
welcome back, by the way.
Yes, yes. It's very nice to have you. It's great. It was very nice to see Arch, and we actually haven't had you and Yvonne in I think over a month. So it's great to have you on. We might as well go. Let's get into the actual meat of this whole like piece and dig into this. I've got a pretty solid outline put together. I really think you guys are going to like what I'm going to be bringing at you and throwing at you on the table here. I tried to not get too crazy or too detailed, but to start things off, I thought it would be interesting before we do it. Instead of doing this at the end, I thought it would be interesting to start things off by just asking you, I want to ask all three of you to talk about your personal connection with the Black Widow character ScarJo in the MCU across her lifespan. And also what your thoughts are as a secondary question, you know, with her leaving, you know, in her solo film and knowing, you know, kind of this was the last time we would see her, you know, like, I mean, so like it's a double part question. I mean, it's a lot to throw at you, but to start off, just kind of, you know, Arch, if you want to start things off, like what is your personal connection with the character?
I've always really enjoyed her and thought of her a lot as really a connective tissue throughout the MCU's history. I mean, starting off in Iron Man 2, she was then very prominent in the first Captain America sequel. And she really just has always felt like the glue of the team to me in a lot of ways. And I think that's great. I think that's like a really important role. Even continuing on to Civil War, she was obviously, you know, I'm not sides, but not in a bad way. Like she was just really like a central character in kind of feeling how a lot of fans felt about the themes in that film, that it was hard to determine who was right and who was wrong in all cases, and her character really exemplified that in the film. So I think she's really stood as a glue to the franchise in a lot of ways. So I think that's been fantastic. Just in terms of her going out now, this being her last film, I mean, it's bittersweet, right? It's a great film, but it's sad to know that is her last one. She's been around for nearly as long as anybody else has. She's a mainstay that's been there for a long time. So I don't know. I felt she's just been really strong and really important. And I love the fact that they touched on that in this film. Florence Pugh's character, Yelena, brought up the fact that she isn't the strongest physically, or she isn't a god. She has to take Tylenol after battles and things like that. And that's what her character is. And that's great, but she's been there anyway. So I don't know. I feel great about her. I think she's had a fantastic run. I couldn't have expected anything better. So I think she's had a great run throughout the MCU.
Excellent. Yvonne, and please take your time. I know I get you here. So take this up into two parts. So give us your reaction to my first question, and then, feel free to expand on the second part, since I am throwing so much at you.
Okay, tell me the first question first again.
First of all, I'd like to hear about your personal, and I know you definitely will appreciate this. How do you feel about your personal connection with the Black Widow character across the whole MCU? Scarlett Johansson, the actress. How do you feel about your personal connection to the character?
When Black Widow, made her first appearance in Iron Man, and then we saw her, more in the Avengers, it really gave, I think, for women, for little girls, an actual superhero that stayed true to her feminine ways, right? She used what she had to do what she needed to do, but she could also hold her own against the guys, right? She didn't play dirty. She didn't try to cheat it out. If there was going to be, you were punching with your fist, she was going to give it back to you, right? And so it was nice to see a character, in that kind of perspective, right? We've seen the men, we've seen the strong ones, the angry ones, the smart ones, we've seen that, but we've never seen a woman come in and just be like, I have a lot to offer. And she just had this wide range to be able to offer. And we got to see the whole spectrum of that offer, right? From the first Iron Man all the way to Black Widow. So as a character, her development was amazing. As a woman, you looked at Black Widow and you went, yeah, that's great. That's a character I can get behind.
And the second part of that would be, what were your thoughts?
Mephisto?
What were your thoughts? At the end of the film, when you watched it and it got to the end and you left the theater and everything and whatnot, how did you feel at that? What were your feelings knowing that was the send off of that character? Did you have an internal dialogue on that?
I wish the send off was better. I wish it was better, right? The end basically was, her sister sitting at her grave, right? We know what happens. We know the end.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That's a different question. I'm going to get into that in a minute. What I mean is, how did you feel personally knowing that we're losing ScarJo, that we're losing Nat from the MCU? I should have framed it better. What were your thoughts and your feelings on that aspect?
I was really sad. I was really sad. It was an end of a favorite character of mine. We were saying goodbye. We have people who are going to come in and pick up her mantle, as a another woman character. Are we going to get somebody as good as she? So there's an anticipation that there's going to be some shoes to fill there. But my feelings were like, this is it. We are done. That's over. And now it's really sad. You mourned at the end with her sister. It was sad.
Cyber, you heard my first and second part of that whole question. I know I would anticipate that you'll have quite a bit to say. So please feel like you can take your time. That is one of the privileges of being a co-host, I guess. Please, we'd love to hear about, your personal connection with the character and with ScarJo.
Well, I hate to bust your bubble. It's not that deep of a thing. It's pretty simple when it comes to her character. To me, like everyone said, she got introduced in Iron Man 2. We saw her through the 3 or 4 Avenger films. We got her in Black Widow. And I mean, my personal take on her is basically this. I saw an evolution in her character that I felt was very different. I didn't think that it was the best evolution I've seen in a character in a universe or any type of franchise, as you want to call it. It definitely was interesting to see where they took it, and she's an okay actress. I think she's fine. I think she's, decent, but I don't think she's anything special. So, I mean, out of all the characters in the MCU, she is not my ultimate favorite. So, my connection with her was pretty simple. She did her part. She came and she gone. Supposedly she's done. I can't 100% agree with that she's completely done, that we're not going to see her again in something in the future. I can't say that that's 100% true because we don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions that we still have not, you know, gotten to, I feel. So that's kind of my connection with it. To answer your second question with her, basically supposedly being done, like I was saying, I don't think we're 100% sure if we're 100% done with her yet. It's possible, but it's also very probable that she could return at some point in the MCU. We just don't know because we have so many other multiverse avenues we can take. They could bring her back. So I want to say that I don't 100% agree that she's done, but how she gave her send off, I agree with Yvonne that it wasn't the greatest.
So, as a segue, Yvonne mentioned to me in a personal conversation that she heard about a secondary end credit scene or something like that, I guess, where supposedly, do you hear about this, Cyber? Where supposedly, I guess there's another like a version of the end credit scene or something like that. Did you hear about that?
I have heard about it, yes.
And apparently, I guess from what Yvonne told me, like when Yelena whistles, like somebody whistles back.
Yep, I have heard that. I forget who I heard it or where I read it or whatever. But yeah, there was an actual whistle back in an alternate version. I don't know exactly why they changed it, but I do have a feeling it probably has to do with something that they had to change in one of the other movies coming out, because of the whole pandemic. So I think maybe there's another way they were going with it, and they had to alter it. So maybe we'll end up seeing what actually was involved with that, snippet further down in like either Doctor Strange 2 or Ant-Man Quantumanium. It could be in one of those that maybe we might get a snippet of what actually happened and why they altered the course. Because that Doctor Strange 2 and Ant-Man and Quantumanium, those two are probably the two biggest films that are part of Phase 4 that's really going to start explaining the direction the MCU is going in. So I think that's probably has to do something with it too.
I think that's a great take. I really do. I think that's an important comment to make. Now, David R is back, as like I said before the show. Arch, like he is a 100% supporter. So, like I figured he would pop up. What's up, David? It's good to talk to you, man. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly who he was reacting to because I didn't get I'm not able to time up the message. But wow, great take. The loss of Natasha is really emphasized here, despite already having been seen before. A very different perspective on the same loss. Yeah, I like that. That seems pretty legitimate. It looks like David is pretty pumped. The way they covered Natasha's death here, it makes you wonder what they have planned for the T'Challa send-off. Hey, that's a great comment. That's really interesting. I really hadn't thought about that, to tell you the truth. I don't want to get too far off of the beaten path or whatever, but that is interesting. It is interesting to wonder how they're going to handle that whole deal, in Black Panther 2, which the way time flies by is just going to pop up before you know it, basically. But so moving on.
Yeah, like next July.
Yeah, it'll be there before you know it. I'm telling you. And hopefully we'll do by between now and then, we'll do like 150 shows or something like that. So like, we'll see. But so starting off with you, Cyber, just to bring the ball back to your court. I felt like Kate Shortland, and this, I really wanted to get you first on this anyway. I really felt like Kate Shortland did an excellent job directing this film. What are your thoughts, Cyber, and everybody on the panel? If you want to jump on Yvonne next after Cyber, and then Arch, if you want to come in at the end. What did you guys think of the job she did with the film from a directing standpoint?
So coming into this movie, I wasn't 100% sure how she was going to, what she was going to give us, because I didn't know her from anything else. I hadn't seen any of her previous films. I know she's done a lot of short films over the years. She's actually does a lot of Australian films because she's from Australia. So she has done a lot of short films. She's done a few, kind of indie pathway type of films that are considered, like were Canadian Films Review type of deals that were considered kind of successful and big. And so I didn't know where she was going to take this because, her genre mostly was drama or something that had to do with like growing up or adolescence or something like that. So when going into this film, I wasn't sure what to expect from it. Like, does she have an action eye? Does she know what she's doing with the Marvel film? Marvel is pretty good at picking who they put into their films to make their films and so forth. So, usually they don't go in the bad direction, but you never know because, you can't always be on top. Eventually you're going to fall down. So with this film, with that said, I actually thought she actually did a pretty decent job. I was actually really impressed with all the fight choreography throughout the film and the layout of the film because I felt that it had a very great pace, and I thought she did a good job of directing it in the right direction. There's definitely parts where, there's more information that could have been brought out, that could have been more explained, etc., just like with any film. But for the general main part, I think that she did a pretty decent job and gave us a halfway decent film.
Okay, Yvonne?
I don't know who she was. So, same as Cyber, I didn't know who this person was. I've never seen any of the movies or, I think it was a ballsy move to put somebody on there who has not done an MCU movie before. So, when they came out with it, and especially Black Widow, because that was a very highly anticipated movie, right? Because everybody was so excited for it, and then we've had to wait for so long for it to actually come out. So it was a highly anticipated movie for a lot of people. So there was high expectations, and I think she did really well. She met those expectations, and it gave more than what we anticipated for a movie. So I think it was well done, really well done.
I'm really glad that you mentioned the delay that we all had to deal with in terms of when the film actually came out. I think it's important for people. Look, our expectation here on the MCU's Bleeding Edge is that the kind of people who are going to check us out are already going to know all this stuff. Like we don't expect you to we don't think you need to be like baby spoon fed or whatever, with like the essential basic concepts of the MCU. I think it's important to notice and mention that, especially when we're talking about Kate Shortland, because if box office is like a very important connected, type, like situation where it really affects your rating of a director of a film, how successful it is from a financial standpoint, then, realistically, you have to take into consideration that the worldwide box office right now for the Black Widow is $266 million. Now, if not for the pandemic, if there'd never been COVID, I have to believe this movie would have made easily $1.5 billion, probably. I think it would have beat Captain Marvel in box office. I do. But Arch, what did you think of the directing?
I thought it was really good. The primary reason I would say that is I thought it was extremely well balanced. Cyber mentioned the pacing. And the biggest key to that for me would be that when you got to what you would think of maybe the slower parts, when they get to the family type of aspect or her personal backstory, it doesn't feel like it's dragging at all. You're like really engaged in what her personal story is and what that family dynamic is like. And then it cuts to action. Of course, brings up the energy, but they keep flowing back and forth, and you always feel like everything is important, which is the key part when you have to get to more character development stuff. So I thought they did a great job just keeping it moving, keeping it interesting. There's another part I was debating as we were going around here whether or not I was going to bring this up now, but I think this is as good a time as any. I'm a huge Bond fan, and this relates to the directing. In fact, right on this row right here is every Bond film. So I've got that on my shelf right there. So I'm a huge Bond fan. And there was a key little foreshadowing that they put in the movie when she comes in and they're watching Moonraker, which is basically this midpoint of the Roger Moore run, for those who aren't familiar. But
it's like the Captain Marvel of Bond films.
Well, Moonraker's a solid film. We'll get into that later. But the key thing here is it's actually a key point of foreshadowing in this film. Moonraker is about a megalomaniac who has a space race. He has a floating space station where he has a cult of people who all follow him up to do his bidding. And I should have thought about that throughout the entire time. But that's, of course, where this film goes. And I thought it was an excellent little piece of foreshadowing that I didn't even pick up during the film, but I thought it was fantastic, like in retrospect. So that was great. There's a couple little points, and I rarely do this sort of thing, but I just thought it would be fair to mention that I did think about a couple of little things that get into nitpicky territory where I thought maybe there were a couple of cuts that just happened a little too fast. Not in the sense that Cyber was talking about. There was a lot of things that were left up in the background. So when she walked in and she's first meeting Yelena, there's some arrows in some arrow holes in the background, and it's left up to sort of you to kind of realize that this was a situation Hawkeye was involved in, and that relates back to Dreykov's daughter, and that's part of the backstory. So you kind of have to sort of piece that together. But I like that, actually. I like the fact that you have to piece some of those more subtle things together. I don't think that's a problem. What I'm talking about is just some quick cuts, maybe towards the end, where you just kind of go from one scene to the next, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess we're here. And particularly where I think the most obvious ones where the parachute sort of opens at the end. It's like they pull it and they're instantly on the ground. And I think maybe if she'd have just left that for another couple of seconds, it would have played just a tiny bit better. But again, that's a super nitpick. I don't think it's a big deal. I just thought if we're talking about directing, I might as well sort of point that out. That's probably more of an editing thing, really, anyway. But overall, I thought the movie flowed really well. The character moments hit great. The action was great. And I loved a lot of the subtle story building as well.
Well, heading back in the direction of Yvonne as a spin-off to that, you mentioned the fact that they're bringing her in having not done anything else in the MCU. Do you feel like as a director, when you helm a successful MCU film, do you feel like there's any kind of angle, because it's a superhero genre film, where maybe how do you think the studios and people and these production companies, how do you think that they look at a director in that situation, in terms of their success being based off of an MCU film? You know what I mean? Do you feel like, Yvonne, do you feel like that's something where that's a positive to be carrying in your bag? Or do you think that it's neutral? Or do you think it's almost kind of like a situation where, it's like, oh, well, you did an MCU film? Who gives a shit?
I mean, I guess for people who do podcasts like this, that's a big deal, right? Because now she'll forever be linked to the MCU's Black Widow. So anything that she does will be always in comparison to what she's done. And that in turn will be comparison, to the rest of the MCU movies and those directors. But I mean, I guess in that kind of field that she works in, I guess it doesn't really matter what you do. If the movie flops, the movie flops, right? So it doesn't matter what it pertains to. So yeah, I mean, Captain Marvel, we were all looking forward to that. And there's a lot of people who love it, but there's a lot of people who did not like what came from it. So I mean,
oh, really? Again, you think so, Yvonne? Really? I mean, geez, I see all these wonderful comments and reviews on YouTube and everywhere else online for Captain Marvel. It sounds like everybody loves it.
I think there might be some people who just don't like it.
No, I would never believe that.
Oh, yes, you would. But what I'm saying is that, like you can be offered a great opportunity to do an MCU film, but if it flops, like not only is you're going to carry that in career, but now you've wrecked an MCU timeline. So like you might as well just go find
There you
another
go.
job.
Can you like you got to really suck if you direct an MCU film and it blows. Like then you're not at that point. If anything, like that definitely says a lot about your abilities as a director right there. But getting over back to you, Cyber. What do you think about that whole dynamic? Like, do you think how do you think that Kate Shortland's going to be looked at in terms of when people reflect on her work on Black Widow?
I mean, once you've done an MCU film, I feel like it sticks to you. So, I mean, I think down the road, like if she does do any other successful films, she does any films that are, Oscar worthy or anything that, could prompt super attention from the media. I definitely think that it will be shadowed by Black Widow because she was a part of the MCU. Because, like I said, it kind of sticks to you. Once you're a part of the MCU, like wherever else you go and doing films, the first thing a person's going to talk about is, oh yeah, that's right, you're the director of that, or you acted as that character, or this and that. Because if you think about it, look at all the people that have been a part of the MCU already. When you think of Scott Derrickson, what's the first movie that comes to mind that he directed? Doctor Strange. When you think of the Russo brothers, they've actually executive produced and have directed a lot of TV shows, movies, and have written a whole bunch of stuff like that. But if you hear the Russo brothers, what's the first thing you think of? Avengers Endgame. So it kind of sticks to you. So I feel that, as time goes on, Kate Shortland is probably going to, if, like I said, she gets a bigger hit film or something that just ends up getting special attention, I feel like the first thing they're going to say, oh, you directed Black Widow for the MCU, So I think it's a good thing for her because it's going to get her more jobs down the road because she worked with the MCU because the MCU is considered and regarded as such a huge, profitable, and just an amazing production. So I feel it's a good thing.
Arch, what do you think? What is it? Is it a positive? Is it a pro? Is it a con to, for a director to direct an MCU film, in terms of their future perspectives?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't really follow directors, like, in terms of, like, their entire careers. There's several that I'm familiar with and that I'll pick up on. But, I mean, it depends on what they're going to hire them for. I mean, I think if I was looking at this, I would say she did a very competent job. So I don't see how this would do anything but help her, like, if you're going to hire somebody. But a lot of times there's reasons that you don't want the stigma of somebody. I'm not saying there's a bad stigma here. I think she did a fantastic job. But sometimes, certain directors just sell on who they are, and it doesn't really matter what they're making. You just know what they're. I just saw, like, by the way, when I was in theater, for instance, I saw like a trailer for the new M. Night Shyamalan film, and immediately everybody listening to this just got an idea of what you're watching, even if you haven't seen the trailer for that film. And that's what I'm talking about. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm an executive and I'm making a movie and Kate Shortland comes up in conversation. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know enough about her career to even say, but she did a competent job here, so I would say it helps.
Well, David R., the good news for her is that the film is well reviewed, even if the viewing figures are difficult to process. That is a good point, David R. There is no way to really accurately know how much money Disney made off of the $30 Disney Plus, premium, deal or whatever with the film. What, Cyber? Go ahead.
They made $60 million off of that.
Okay, $60 million. All right, so if you add that to the total box office, that means that the film is close to $350 million total.
No, with their 270, their 270 is with the 60 million.
Oh, it is. It's included. Okay.
Yes.
Well, then I can tell you right now, for folks out there and on the panel, the projections that I heard that we talked about on the last episode, remember, Cyber, were that there were thoughts that the film might still do like 750 million, maybe box office wise. I think that was like the high of like the estimates at this point.
Yep.
This far into the tenure of the film, I don't see it recouping that much money. I just don't see it happening. not getting to that level.
I mean, it's been out for 2 weeks, going on 3. I mean, you're looking. I'm guessing maybe if they break anything, it'll be like maybe 400. They'll probably hit. I mean, I don't know how well it's doing overseas. I mean, they made like 100 and something thousand over or a million overseas. I don't know how many theaters are actually open overseas, so I don't know exactly if they can, where that will go. But I still think, I mean, they will definitely, I believe, make over at least 300 million. So I mean, they will make some of their money back from what they put into the production. So I mean, that's still a good thing. And this is the highest movie that has come out since the pandemic, for any studio company. So I mean, it's coming back slowly, but it's coming.
Well, and factually, I've heard about situations where in some countries they're not even going to be able to see Black Widow for like another month. Like it's not going to hit their theaters for like another month in some countries. But moving on, why don't we really quick just take a little breather really quick, and I'm going to go ahead and I figure, Arch, you won't mind watching the Black Widow trailers because you've already seen the film, so like it shouldn't bother you. You know what I mean? But I'm just going to warn you right now, Arch, we're going to be watching Shang-Chi trailers. We're going to be watching Shang-Chi trailers later, so you might want to get your blindfold.
I don't watch trailers for anybody that's watching, so yeah. I'll bring on the Black Widow ones though. I'll watch it. Can I make a quick comment about box office before we go though? Just real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. I just think we're obviously in a bit of a different era in terms of box office for obvious reasons. It's going to take a while to really process what is a normal and what's acceptable at this point. We may have to get 5-10 films down the road through the end of the year to see how these things are performing, to really be able to evaluate this and determine if this is a good performance or not. It's clearly less than we might expect in a normal scenario, but this isn't a normal scenario. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
That's very fair. It's very fair. I think you're definitely right. That's a really good point. I think that not just in the film industry, but in other industries, in other aspects of like our normal lives, we are going to continue to see things really need to be played out for like multiple years to really understand what our new normals are going to be.
You don't know everything about me. I've lived a lot of lives. Before I was an Avenger. Before I got this family. I made mistakes choosing between what the world wants you to be and who you are. We have to go back to where it all started.
Where did you think I was all this time?
We have unfinished business.
My girls are the toughest girls in the world.
I'm sorry. We had our orders and we played our roles.
It wasn't real.
It was real to me. To me, you were everything.
Bring her home.
Put your seatbelts on. She's such a mom.
One thing's for sure. I'm done running from my past.
I tell people my sister moved out west. You're a science teacher. Your husband, he renovates houses. You're thinking about moving, but you're gonna wait until the interest rates go down.
That's not my story. Before I was an Avenger, I made mistakes. enemies.
His call sign's Taskmaster. He controls the Red Room. They're manipulated, fully conscious, but no choices.
I should have come back for you. How many others are there?
Enough.
We have to go back to where it all started, so they never do that to anyone again.
We're a family. We fight with you.
You won't win.
I've always found it best not to look into the past.
Okay, you got a plan, or shall I just stay duck and cover?
My plan was to drive us away.
Well, your plan sucks.
At some point, we all have to choose between what the world wants you to be and who you are. I made my choice. I'm done running. Here's what's gonna happen.
Natasha, don't slouch.
I'm not slouching.
You're going to get a back hunch.
Listen to your mother.
Oh my God, this.
Up.
All
Listen.
right, enough. All of you.
I didn't say anything. That's not fair.
Sorry. I'm allergic to the Midwest. What this woman did, honestly, I can't even imagine.
You're not supposed to be bothering me on my holiday time, Valentina.
Oh, bothering you? Oh, no. I'm just here paying my respects.
You know, coming here makes you look desperate.
Okay.
I want a raise.
Oh, yeah, you and me both. Believe me, you're gonna earn it. I've got your next target. Thought I'd hand deliver it. Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death. Kind of a cutie, don't you think?
Okay. Well, I gotta just wonder, as far as that and the mid credits scene there with Valentina, which I gotta be honest with you, I absolutely love to death. Like, I love the fact that they brought Julia Louis-Dreyfus into the MCU. I love her. Seinfeld is probably, like, I think the best sitcom ever. Frankly, it's the funniest without question. And she was my favorite character in Seinfeld too. She was. Without question. But the only thing with it, I mean, it's a good angle. Like, I like the idea that she's going to pop up in Black Widow, Yelena Belova, in Hawkeye, and I guess be going after him. But what I don't understand is, it seems interesting to me that she wouldn't know from Nat at all that, like, Clint is Nat's friend. You know what I mean? Like, that just seems kind of weird to me. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever. I absolutely love the those outros where they show that red silhouette and that red background, and then you see Black Widow, and they go in and out with her, and you see the bracelets and everything and whatnot. Those are the same colors as the Red Room, the black and the red scheme. I love that connection. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. It really is. But just really quick, guys, what are your thoughts, Arch, on that mid-credits scene?
No, I agree with you. I love Elaine being in that role. I think she plays it pretty well, and I just love seeing her back. But I think it sets up a lot of curious things. My first thought was also that she'd show up in Hawkeye, which seems pretty certain. I know we can never be fully sure where they're going with all this stuff, but that seems a pretty solid guess there. My if I had to guess further, my thought would be that she is like Hawkeye's going to wind up giving a little bit more of the backstory here, like what he was doing in that room, and he's going to wind up kind of talking her down from going after him based on his connection to that. So I think to answer your question as to why she doesn't know that from Natasha herself. I mean, obviously it's possible that could happen, but I think they're kind of just leaving that for Clint to close the loop and add a little bit more to that backstory himself.
Cyber?
All right, let's see here. Well, with this post-credit scene or mid-credit scene, whatever you want to call it, I mean, yes, it was great that they, brought in Julia Louis-Dreyfus, of course, from her little brief part in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, playing that same character, Val. Just call her Val. And I think she is a perfect choice for the character, because from just what I've read about the character, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is exactly... She gives the great presentation of that character. So that whole scene is really interesting. While watching it in theaters, when that scene popped up and Yelena, whistles, and, no whistle comes back, of course, and then it just all of a sudden you hear Val and she's blowing her nose. That scene to me leaves a lot to speculation. It leaves a lot to, where they're going to go in the direction they're going to take this. And like Arch was saying with, bringing her into Hawkeye and everything and how he's going to kind of bring out the more of the story, I definitely feel that's probably what's ended up going to happen anyways, as well. But at the same time, that whole scene is really fun. At the same time, it's really cool that they showed that. They gave us a little bit more of Val and, giving us more of our Elaine, as you guys are calling her. And I just think it's a well-rounded little post-credit scene.
The best was like when like the scenes with her and the soup Nazi, like with like she would be like yeah, like begging for like soup from the soup Nazi. That was hilarious. But Yvonne, what did you think? What did you think of that mid credit scene? Were you really shocked to see Val pop up?
No, because there was rumors that she was supposed to pop up already before they did the Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? Because she never introduced herself, right? So she was already supposed to be part of the plan. Okay, so this is my thought, and nobody can yell at me. She's going to be like the next Nick Fury, because she's building her own Avengers group.
The Thunderbolts.
Yeah. So she is like the next Nick Fury. That's what she is, and they're introducing her because we're getting rid of all the old, right? Like that's all coming to an end.
Yvonne, but what about her connection to Hydra? Because in the comic books, she's Madam Hydra. So I mean, she's a former SHIELD agent that was Nick Fury's lover, that then went bad and became like a higher up in Hydra. So at that point, and like, you know what? This actually ties into my next topic, so I might as well just roll it right in anyway. In terms of the Yelena Belova character, what do you feel like? I'll start with you, Yvonne. What do you feel like? What type of impact do you think Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova can make in the future of the MCU? And along with that, will she be an Avenger, or will she be on the Thunderbolts, or will she be a Dark Avenger, or like, you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So what's really great about the Black Widow character is that you see the evolution of the character, right? You see her struggle with her darkness, her demons, You see her, we know that there's a dark history, a dark past. And like this story is kind of like the very end of it. This is, like I've gone home, I'm not running anymore. Like we are the end of the story. And we have her sister come in, right? Yelena. And you can see by the difference where she's ending, her character really is sparking a new beginning. So do I think she's going to go dark? I think she might go dark until she finds herself and then she goes good. That's just kind of think the direction it's going to go. I think they're going to use her anger and frustration, the death of her family, just like, Black Widow was used also for that. And I think she'll go dark until she realizes that she can be good. It's almost like a mirror image of what the previous character went through.
Is she going to end up be an Avenger at the end of the day when it's all said and done?
No, I don't think she'll actually be an Avenger, right? Like, I don't know. That's really hard to say. I don't see it. Whether the comics do it, I don't know because I haven't read that far into the comics. But do I think she's going to be an Avenger? I don't know. That's really hard to say. To me, like after everyone starts dying and the original Avengers, there's only remakes after for me. But like the Avengers, like they're the original ones. Could she be? Maybe she could be, but that's just kind of, I think that's the direction that the MCU might be taking her.
Arch, Yelena Belova's impact on the MCU from a future standpoint, where do you see it going?
Right now, short term, if I had to guess, I would say like a Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers type of thing. I don't know if they're going to be two separate teams or kind of a fusion, but I think she'd probably wind up at I tend to go with the Madam Hydra look at it. I feel like they're going to be slightly used for, just like shades of gray type characters. I don't know. It's really hard to guess exactly where this is going. I do agree with Yvonne. I'm having trouble seeing her just like heroically winding up as an Avenger, but she could. I mean, who knows? Like these things, like it's not just, we're not in the era. You make 3 movies and that's it. You're done. She might have 5 and 6 appearances, and by the end of it, we just think she's super awesome. Look how quick they turned around U.S. Agent in just that one series alone, where like he was like really hated, and 2 episodes later, you really love him. So like they could do things really quickly. She might end up there, but I wouldn't put any money on it right now. But that aside, I loved her performance in this movie. I thought she was awesome. I would love to see as much of her as they can. So
yeah.
Well, I think it's important to point out that, she's still killing people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what she's doing. She's still assassinating people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, right there, that should tell you, like, where the direction of, like, Vale's character is going. You know what I mean? But, Cyber, what do you think long term? What is Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova's impact going to be, do you think?
I honestly don't see her being a huge integral part of the next phase. I think that she's going to be used here and there. I think she's going to be more like a side character. I think more like Hawkeye. I don't think that they're going to use her in the same capacity because with the legacy that Scarlett Johansson has left on us with Black Widow, I don't see the MCU or Marvel themselves, Kevin Feige, any of those people. I think they realize that, you can't have another person be a Black Widow. You can't have them be the same impact. So what better way to bring that character but keep them in the MCU but as a side character that they could reference to. So I see her future being here and there throughout the MCU in different films in different capacities. Especially because if she's still is like a Black Widow spy killer, like she was saying that she's already working for Val at that post-credit scene, I feel that she's going to come in like how Clint has, where you see him here and there, you hear about him here and there, and that she's out there somewhere doing something, but not a integral part of the next phase of the MCU.
But Clint's an Avenger. So does that mean you think that Yelena Belova is going to be an Avenger?
She could be. You never know. She could become any part of the, any of the groups. We just don't know. Because there's really no positive or exact direction that they're taking her in yet because she just was introduced. So we have to wait to see what her character does in Hawkeye we got to wait to see what she does and anything further that she actually pops up in.
David R. Dark Avengers would seem like the direction, but a quick boost to A-Bomb, bringing in Sylvie and the leader, and you're right over to Masters of Evil territory. That is accurate. I'm not going to try to unpack the Masters of Evil right now because although we love to connect to the comic books, that's a lot to try to like unravel. I mean, even just explaining the leader is like kind of difficult to unravel. But so, all right, everybody's thoughts, you know, and starting with you, Cyber, and then Arch, and then Avon. What are your thoughts on this whole Taskmaster quandary? A lot of fans are pissed off at like how Taskmaster was done in the film, the gender bending, the fact that they didn't use the actual comic book accurate male character in the role. You know, what do you think, Arch?
So here's my take. If it's something that fits the narrative that's being told, that's what's most important to me. Let's just start off with this. I know a lot of people find I loved it, by the way. Start off with that, but there's a lot of people who really love Taskmaster's version of Tasker, on that or dismiss that in any sort of way. But Taskmaster is like a D character. There's a difference between that and going through and changing up like Captain America in some drastic way. So it's not the same thing to me. I've seen a lot of people try to compare it to what they did with Deadpool in Wolverine Origins, where they had his mouth sewn shut and stuff. Like, okay, Deadpool in that case is like a borderline sort of A-list leading character. You can't do that sort of stuff with that type of character. Taskmaster is not that. It just isn't. Taskmaster's a D-level character, and trying to, going in and really tying that into something that's important in Natasha's past really is a narrative. If you forget Tony Masters for just a second and you're just thinking about what they do, it works really well, which is all I care about. On the surface, you still get all the Taskmaster stuff. You still get all the fighting. The look is really good. And then I really loved what they did with having it be Dreykov's daughter. I do. I mean, if that somehow upsets you, if you have posters of Tony Masters, at the ceiling of your room, I mean, sorry,
that's good.
Sorry, but I mean, I still thought this worked really well for what it was, and I really enjoy it.
Well, look, if you're a dude and you're like staring at Tony Masters posters at night on like your ceiling or whatever, like I got to be honest with you, like you're probably playing on a side of the spectrum like that I'm not on. You know what I mean? Like so, but that's all good though. You know what I mean? You do your thing. You play with who you want to play with. But anyways, Cyber, are you pissed off that they gender bended Taskmaster?
I'm not pissed off, but I didn't care too much for it. I get why they did it that way, why they did that narrative, because they wanted to bring in the daughter. Because I knew as soon as they were saying, that scene where Natasha explaining that she blew up Dreykov and his daughter, like she killed her, and then she had this guilty conscience. I had a feeling she was going to pop back up, and that's when it popped in my head, oh, you know what? I bet she's going to be Taskmaster, because what better way to bring her into the story, saying, oh, she's not really dead, and, Dreykov using her in a horrible fashion, because that's just how evil he is.
So, Cyber, you had a moment of psychic, level consciousness during the film and knew that Taskmaster was Dreykov's daughter?
Yes, I did. So, as soon as it happened, I was like, holy crap, I was right. And I was like, okay, I get why they did this. It's not the traditional Taskmaster. Yes, it worked for the film. But at the same time, it's like, yes, I was expecting a way better form of the Taskmaster. I really was. I was expecting more of him in the film, too. I wasn't expecting the little bit that we did get of him. I was expecting him to be more of the villain, too, not Dreykov as much. So how they process it, I get why they did it and where they took the direction, but overall, I didn't care too much for the Taskmaster of this film. I'm looking forward to maybe down the future they'll bring the character back and give us a different iteration.
Definitely. I feel like honestly, Cyber, are you sure that like you didn't call Miss Cleo real quick like during the film and like, you know, she gave you a tip or something like that? All right. Yvonne,
No, Mephisto told me.
Oh, Mephisto told you? Okay.
Yeah, Mephisto told me.
We're still waiting to see Mephisto. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for him to pop up. I mean, 6 months ago, I was expecting Mephisto, and he still has not presented himself. But I'm wondering what is going to happen. But Yvonne, are you obviously like I was surprised as hell when when Taskmaster turned out to be Dreykov's daughter. I was like, whoa, like you know what I mean? Like it really shocked me. You know, like. Do you understand where the fans are coming from with their anger about Taskmaster?
No. I don't understand their anger. That's like, you know, like as Cyber says, like it's such a D character. Like it didn't, I mean, it could be a goblin underneath that suit. Like it didn't matter, you know, so much who was underneath the suit, right? Like nobody just could understand what the character was, right? Was to go, set, and kill, you know, whoever was told. The fact that they tied it in to, you know, Black Widow's story makes a lot more sense, right? They were closing the whole chapter to it, so they needed to finalize that story because the worst thing you can do is you can tell a story like that and not, you know, not have any closure on it. You're like, but what about this? But she died. Now she could never be redeemed in that, you know, and they did it well. I think they took care of it. I think we're going to see Taskmaster later on. Like, I think it's supposed to be part of the Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers or something like that. I think the character will come back, but I think they did fine. I think the character was what it needed to be for the film. That's what it is.
Do you agree with Cyber that they didn't use Taskmaster enough in the film?
No, the film wasn't a Taskmaster. It was a Black Widow. So, you know, part of me is just like, you know, you were just another opposition for the closure of Black Widow. So, you know, like, I think they used it enough. I like the parts Taskmaster was in, but like, I think that was fine. It kind of like the character itself kind of irritated me at some points. So it's like popping up out of the blue. And it's just like, dude, like we were on a roll here. What are you doing? But I think they did fine. I think I like the character just the way it was.
Well, I think Ron made a really good point here. And that
Mephisto
is
again.
They never. Yeah, I noticed Mephisto jumped in there. They never did really explain like Taskmaster at all. Like in the movie, you never get like a actual like, hey, like this is how Taskmaster works. Like this is, you know, this is like the whole deal. This is like his ability. This is like, you know, what he does. Like you just got Taskmaster all of a sudden, and she had the HUD display on her helmet where like she was like computer generating or whatever. Like, you know, like that's how she was that's how she was copying people's fighting styles, was through her headset, which is different than the comic book Taskmaster, who actually would watch film of people and copy them like that. Arch, are you okay?
No, I'm good. I was gonna jump in there. I was like having a conniption fit. No,
go ahead.
There was a subtle little thing, and this goes back to when I was talking about Shortland's directing earlier. Is there were some things that kind of got left so that you can see them. They're there, but they don't get broadly detailed. So it depends on how much you think the explanation needs to be there versus just shown. But she did a lot of showing, not telling, which I think is fine. But you saw a moment where they plugged in Taskmaster. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah.
A sufficient job showing that he can absorb these fighting styles and get programmed into him or her in this case. So I thought it was there. It may not hit you in the face. So if you're checking your watch at that moment, you might have missed it, but it is there. So I think they did that.
Yeah. Yvonne?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. They did it well. And again, like I just want to say, you know, like this is the end of something that, you know, like this is the end of the original Avengers, right? So introducing all these characters in a solo film doesn't finish the story of what they're trying to tell. right? So, I mean, if they're showing off these characters, they got to be introducing them later on to give that bit of a backstory, right? It's the same like when Black Widow came into Iron Man 2, nobody really knew who this person was, right? We got more as it went along, and I think that's going to happen. But because they're so new and being so new and introduced to the MCU, we're so used to going, well, we know everything about them, but we forget they were slowly introduced into the films. We had to grow with them. I think that's the same thing they're doing here.
Well, just so you know, Arch and Yvonne and with Cyber, I don't even have to say this, but since I don't have like any kind of tab for you guys to be able to like alert me when you want to jump in, if you just put your finger up like this real quick, like, you know, if you just do that like you did earlier, Yvonne, I'll see that immediately and I'll go to you. If you just put your finger up real quick one time, I'll see it and I'll flip to you, because I am very much like paying attention to what y'all are doing. With Cyber, he can just like give me a facial expression, and because him and I have the Rizzle connection, we're so used to each other's faces and stuff like that that he can just give me like a blink and I'll like know that he wants to talk. But from David R., it worked well in the film. The MCU sets itself apart from the DCEU by being willing to change a character for reasonable storytelling rather than religiously holding to specific scenes and details. Agreed. Cyber's over there in the background giving me like weird hand signals and like you know, stuff like that or whatever now to kind of like make fun of me, but that's okay. Anyways, so
no, I was replying to David R.
Oh, go ahead.
He said which finger. I was pointing to which finger he should use.
Oh, okay. So, Cyber,
but I'll give you word faces.
Thank you. What surprised you in the film? You know, what surprised you? And based on what your initial perception of what you thought the film would be like going into it, what surprised you?
That I liked it. Like I said, when I went into it, I had no desire to see it, honestly, because I had no idea who the director was, and I had no idea what it was going to be like, if it was going to be bad. Same thing with the Eternals. That's the same way I feel about it. Like, the trailer has not given me anything that I really care for. So, honestly, yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. I really didn't. Some films you go into, you know, most films you're like, oh yeah, I know I'm going to like it, you know. And some people you might go in and be like, I don't know if I'm going to like it. And that's just how I felt about this film, because I just wasn't sure. Because it was in such development hell for so long. The pandemic causing it to be delayed, you know, a full year, almost a year and a half. You know, it just, I wasn't sure what to expect. So after seeing it, it surprised me because, like I said earlier, Kate Shortland did a really good job. I was impressed with what she did with it, and she actually made a decently round film.
Well, just in response to David R.'s question of which finger, David R., whichever finger allows me to be able to touch Yelena Belova in a private session really quick, I'll roll with whatever finger I get at that point. And let's hope that it's I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say something, but I'm going to stop right there. Anyways, so, Yvonne.
You should have stopped before saying anything.
No, come on. You got to make it interesting. Come on. Yvonne's over there cracking up, so somebody's laughing. So
yeah, she's laughing at what I said.
No, I crack Yvonne up all the time. I'm telling you right now, I love it. I sit here and I'm just doing my thing, and then I see Yvonne just cracking up all the time when I'm talking. It's funny. She's like my biggest fan. But so Yvonne,
sure.
What surprised the crap out of you with Black Widow?
I'm making t-shirts later. Biggest fan. That's what it's gonna say. You know what really not, because I actually did have very high expectations of the movie, because Black Widow is one of my favorite characters. So I had very high expectations of what I wanted to see. Those expectations were really met. I think what I loved about it was it's, you know, the character really like finished rounding out. Do you know what I mean? Like you got to see the mothering side, the protector side, why she is, you know, like it's the hindsight, you know, you can see who she is in all the characters. I think they did a good job finishing that. So, yeah.
Most definitely. Arch, what do you think? Oh, there's the Mephisto again. The Mephisto echo again. Arch, what do you think, buddy? What surprised you in the film, and what do you think about what David R. has to say?
I'll comment on David's last, but just so I only watched the first trailer. That's all I ever do. So I went in with just the first trailer. I was really excited by the first trailer. If you watch that, just the energy in that, the music, everything they got going on, just really pumped me up. But what really, I was expecting like a Winter Soldier kind of esque type of, heavy action, just gritty sort of thing. I got that out of it, but what me the most was how personal and like just the idea. I don't know if we've talked about this enough yet, but really the idea that this is a woman, and a lot of these characters are like this. Yelena and Natasha are both like this. That they have this childhood where they have this happy period, they really cling to, and they know it's not real, but it's the best part of their life to it, and that really hits me. So I'm somebody who grew up with. I mean, I'll just be honest. I grew up with a solid upbringing. We weren't like super rich or anything, but I had everything I needed. I had good parents. I had a solid upbringing. Like, I know that I'm in this world. I know a lot of people have, minor to significantly worse problems than I do growing up. And then to watch these two, knowing that was their life, to me was like, I was like, I can't even imagine this. This would be like horrible that the best part of your life, is not real, but you have to hold on to it because it's the best part of your life. So like, I thought that was really strong. It really connected with me, even though I don't relate to it directly. I really felt that for her. So that to me was really the most surprising part. Going to something more comical now, rather than that depressing mess. David talking about ass to screen ratio. Seriously, when I was watching this movie, I was shocked, especially with a female director, because if this was a male director, he would be put on a pike over a fire pit right now. It was about the fourth time that I noticed a pretty close-up shot of one of their asses just taking up like 25% of frame real estate. And it's like bouncing around the screen like a damn screensaver, like all over the place. And I'm just like, why is there so much ass in this movie? I'm not complaining, but I was surprised. So there you go.
See, I didn't even notice that. I don't know what's wrong with me, because like you'd think I would pick that up as being as like overtly sexual as I am and everything, but like I did not notice that. All I noticed was I was actually on a quasi date with a chick when I went to see Black Widow, and I said right in front of her at the end there, like when Black Widow turns and walks to like the the Quinjet or whatever with Rick Mason, I was like, God damn, she's got a chunky ass.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you go back and watch it, like a lot of the shots are like from behind, and it's like shoulder to knee level down, and like the rest, that's like half the frame right over here, and then the rest of the shot is taking place on this side over here.
That's what I got to give credit to Scarlett Johansson, because Elizabeth Olsen has already bitched and complained that they've made her show cleavage and stuff like that in some of the films and stuff. Like she complimented like Marvel Studios because they they didn't do that to her in like WandaVision. ScarJo never complained at all when they like focused on her tits and everything like that during the movies and whatnot. Because who cares? Like honestly, when you look as good as she does, we should get to see those looks. Like if anything.
Okay, hold on. My turn.
Go ahead,
as the woman on the panel, I'd like to say that is actually something that I admire about Black Widow, because hear me out.
Because you think she's hot?
Well, of course she's gorgeous, right? She definitely is gorgeous. But what I'm saying is that not only is she smart, she uses herself to do her mission at the same time, and it doesn't bother her. Like, okay, because let's look at the world today. Like, it does not bother a woman to go up to a bar, wearing a dress and getting a free drink, right? Like, she's playing the actual character of what there is women who use their bodies to do the things that they need to do, right? She would never get in a room full of men if she did not look like that, right? Like, so as a spy and as somebody who loves James Bond, right? There is no ugly women spies. So I'd like to just point that out. Like I'm not offended by it. I'm just saying, props to Scarlett Johansson for looking that good.
Well, let's be realistic here. As the Black Widow and being in the espionage, community and everything like that, you have to imagine that back in her days working for the Soviet Union, I'm sure she probably had to, pull off some romantic, intimate type deals or whatever, to, get close to somebody or whatever, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's, like Red Sparrow type junk. You know what I'm saying?
You pick up a history book and you look at the women who went and were spies for Russia, and you pull a picture of them and you're looking at some really gorgeous women because that's what they were for. They were beautiful to go infiltrate the men's circle because they were beautiful. So
there was a Russian guy in the freaking in the Trump campaign, who was hanging out and banging some of the Trump campaign people and everything, so I mean, no, but good comment.
I'm just saying that as a spy, that's what it is, and history. So I'm just
no, but you know what? To be comic book accurate, you kind of have to do some of those close up, low cut breast shots and stuff like that with Black Widow, because in the comic book, that's the look they give you of Black Widow. They do. Am I not correct, Arch?
Yeah, you're totally correct. But I mean, there's a way to do it. There's a way to not to do it. But the thing is as Yvonne is saying, Natasha is a character like James Bond who uses their sexuality. It's part of who they are. You can't just cut that out of the character. That's part of the character. Now, it's a different thing with Scarlet Witch. That's not inherently about, a major part of what she is, even though Elizabeth Sultan's a very beautiful woman. She doesn't, that character shouldn't and doesn't flaunt herself in the same way, even though she's often drawn that way. It doesn't have to be, but you can't just cut that out of Black Widow. You can cut it out of a lot of these other characters, but you can't cut it out of Black Widow.
Well, I can tell you right now, as a heavily early '90s and mid '90s Marvel comic book fan, I'll tell you right now, if you base your perception on what women look like naked, on what the women in the Marvel comic books in the '90s looked like, especially the X-Men female characters or whatever, any female characters basically, then I'll tell you right now, you'll be extremely disappointed as an adult in terms of what bodies really look like, because in the '90s Marvel comics, every single female character had triple D's, a thick fat ass, big thighs, a little waist, and long pretty hair. Every character. So I
don't know how they fought. They would have just, they would have lost balance. They were no good as superheroes.
They looked damn good to me when I was 11, 12 years old. I can tell you right now. I was like, that's what women look like? Okay. But anyways, this is a really good question, I think, that you guys will like. Cyber, do you feel like the film wrapped up Black Widow's arc as an MCU character in an effective way, and in a way that you personally agreed with?
No. Like I was saying earlier, I think there's plenty of things that are still untold for her character. There's a lot more that they need to, encompass. I mean, what little they did talk about the Budapest mission, they still didn't really cover. So that's something that they really still haven't, fully gave us. Plus, also, I still think there's more to her story than what they gave us in Black Widow too. So, I'm going to leave it at that, and that's just how I feel about it.
Arch?
Yeah, I've been saying for years I never cared about the Budapest mission, so I never thought that was really important. In fact, I remember people talking about them mentioning that way back in Avengers and being like, "Oh, we're going to find out about that. We're going to find out about that." And I'm like, I think that's pretty much a throwaway line, guys. I mean, they're just alluding to the fact that there's history there. I don't think there's anything there that we necessarily must see that's going on there. But I think they got into it a little bit here, and I kind of mentioned this earlier. I think when they get to Hawkeye's going to give kind of his take on what his perspective on that mission was to Yelena. So I think that's going to be well rounded. I just never thought that was necessarily a vital part of her story. I just thought it was a big mission they were on. I don't think the details were that important. But anyway, regardless, I thought this was definitely a really solid ending for her in the sense that it gave us her beginning. It's something we didn't know anything about. I mean, we knew she had went through a training program and that she'd had a forced hysterectomy and that kind of thing. And I could understand all the trauma that's associated with that. We got a lot of that perspective from Yelena in this film as well. But to see like her childhood and to realize, I mentioned this earlier, how important that period was for her, I thought was amazing. I feel completely different about her now in the best way possible. I really feel like she's got this tragic heroic thing going on in a deeper sense than really any character I could name. Like her backstory here is incredible. I'm still processing it. I've only seen it once, by the way, but I can't wait to see it again. I think she's got a really dense, awesome backstory here, and I just love her whole thing. It really closed it out pretty well for me, anyway.
That's great to hear. Cyber?
I already talked.
Oh, my bad.
Yvonne's turn.
Yvonne, I apologize. Thank you, Cyber.
Thanks, Cyber.
I'm sorry.
Pay attention.
You know, I love psychology. I'm a huge fan of psychology. I read it for fun. I think it's fantastic. And as somebody who's actually grown up in like very traumatic childhood type things, what I love about Black Widow is I love watching, you know, both characters come out of the trauma exactly how people would correlate to trauma that has happened to them. You have the protector, which is Black Widow. She is a protector and the mother, and she doesn't want to see anybody hurt, the whole unity part. And then as the younger sister, she, you know, idealizes, you know, that moment in time, you know, where she felt the happiest. And then she uses humor to, you know, as a coping mechanism, right? So, as, you know, as somebody who watches movies like this, and especially when you go deep into a movie of the character where they have traumatic experiences, I like when they say very authentic to how somebody would react to that. So for me, her reaction and her rap and needing to make amends and then ending on that, that's exactly how I would have imagined her dealing with everything. Do I want to see her back? I don't know. I don't know if she's going to come back. Like, from my understanding, Scarlett Johansson said that she was done with the MCU because, you know, it's a really big toll on her body and she wanted to be home. So I don't know if we're going to see her again, maybe in clips or something like that. But I really do think, like, if this is the end, I think it was a great way to see that she got everything that she wanted in the end. We watched her Endgame where she felt sad, disappointed, and she was trying to save everybody, and she needed to be with her family. And she got that in the Endgame, and she got that in Black Widow. And it was a really solid ending for somebody who dealt with so much trauma in their life.
Well, I just want to point out that, you know, just to give you guys, Arch, you know, Yvonne, certainly you, Cyber, just to, you know, just so you know, for me personally, having experienced really, really, really severe trauma, you know, having been almost killed by racists and everything and whatnot, and like literally, like, you know, almost dying, and then recovering for years just in bed, you know, day after day after day, just in bed, recovering because I was so badly beaten. You know, what I go through with PTSD and the trauma I've experienced and whatnot, doing things like this, you know, I talk about the contributions that Yvonne and that you bring to like the table in terms of like the show, you know, and whatnot from an MCU standpoint, you know, and Cyber, you know, I give you props for the fact that you have such great comments, and like you're such a great responder to like topics and queries and questions. But when it comes to like my personal life, like you guys are contributing to something that is like the best, most like normal time where I feel like the best about myself, and like, you know what I mean, and like I'm doing something meaningful again in my life. Like, you're a big part of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, every minute that we're together, like, you're doing that for me. You know what I mean? Like, in a way, this is almost like therapeutic. And, you know, like, Cyber, going through what I've gone through, to be able to, like, be, you know, not only be co-hosts with you, but, like, actually be a close friend with you and everything like that. I hope you understand, like, what that relationship means to me. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I can't emphasize it enough. This is important to me. Like, I care about what we do here, and being able to rely on you and know that you'll be sitting your ass in that chair every Wednesday evening, and I'll be seeing your beautiful face on these streams. I would be sad if I got on here on a Wednesday evening and you weren't there. It would make me feel bad. So, you know, nobody cry or anything. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't like to throw my personal junk into the show, but I just want you guys to know. Well, I just want you guys to know, you know, that I really respect and appreciate all of you. You know what I mean? You know, and honestly, like uniquely, like as individuals, I feel like Arch and I feel like you definitely, Yvonne. I feel like I don't care like what podcast or like what like live stream or whatever was going on or whatever, and like what the topics are. If you guys jumped on the panel, you'd be improving that show no matter what. So you know what I mean? Like as far as I'm concerned, that's how it would be. But so jumping on to like our next segment, we're gonna go ahead and bang out the Shang-Chi trailer really quick, and then we're gonna do some reactions. So let's get into it. I got 2 of them, so be prepared.
I gave you 10 years to live your life. Now you see me rise. And where did that get you? You walked in my shadow. I trained you. The most dangerous people in the world couldn't kill you. Son, it's time for you to take your place by my side. You better watch out, 'cause it's my time. That's not going to happen. It's a new era, yes, I come alive. Outrun who you really are.
Who are you? We make a good team.
Throughout my life, the 10 rings gave our family power. If you want them to be yours one day, you have to show me you are strong enough to carry them.
You are a product of all who came before you. The legacy of your family. You are your mother. And whether you like it or not, you are also your father.
I told my men they wouldn't be able to kill you if they tried. Glad I was right.
You're just a criminal who murders people.
Be careful how you speak to me, boy.
I thought I could change my name. Start a new life. But I could never escape his shadow.
My son, you can't run from your past.
Is this what you wanted?
You got this.
Thank you.
Quick jab.
Left foot.
Right hook.
Okay, Yvonne.
Yes.
The first Shang-Chi trailer, one
Yes.
through 10. How would you rate it?
Well, I would rate it a 10. I'm actually really excited to watch this one. I'm really excited to watch this one. I think there's a lot of elements to this one that's going to be introduced that's going to tie in to places that we don't even understand yet, and we're going to have to go back and rewatch so many movies to pull it out. So I think I'm excited for it.
Do you like how they're doing the 10 rings?
Yeah, I do. I like the direction they're going. Well, I mean, like what from I see on the trailer. I mean, like, so.
Okay, Cyber, 1 through 10, the first trailer.
10. 10. 10. 10. 10. I can't go any higher than 10, except for 1,000 million bazillion.
Well, you
gazillion
could if you want to call it. If you want to call it an 11.75, go ahead. I mean,
is gonna be the best Marvel film this year. I'm telling you, this movie looks like it's gonna be amazing.
I agree with that. Arch,
I can't wait to see this.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cyber. Arch, 1 through 10. That first Shang-Chi trailer.
Well,
We all know you have a hard time with a 10.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're gonna get lucky here because I don't do numbers, but there do happen to be 10 rings, so I will give it 10 rings. So
hey, that was good. That was
everyone.
Good,
that was a special treat from
kids.
Arch on the MCU's Bleeding Edge.
We just got schooled. That was good, Arch.
Nice. No, I really love it. Do you want me to elaborate here or just a rate?
Please. Are you kidding me? This is the MCU's Bleeding Edge. We talk MCU here. You can go ahead, get after it.
You'll notice I had my headphones off. I did not watch the second trailer. I've only seen the first one, but I did watch it again.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah. So I love the first one. So first off, Death Dealer looks badass. I can't wait to see any more of him. Looks incredible. The Iron Rings. You asked Yvonne. I love the rings. The way they're doing this. So the reason I said Iron Rings is they're doing them like martial arts Iron Rings. I don't know if they're Chinese.
Martial style. Yep.
Yeah, martial arts Iron Rings. So to convert them into a fighting style ring, I think is just kind of genius. I love that. So I think that's a great use of them. Really reminds me in a lot of ways in a couple of key scenes, especially as you see that woman twirling around in the garden or whatever it was, really reminded me of
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. If you guys didn't grow up with that huge film when it first came out, it was really incredible. Really reminded me of that.
Chow Yun-Fat.
Yes, Chow Yun-Fat. The thing that I have to point out, though, that I don't see a lot of people talking about, but I thought was really cool, was as he's going at the end of the first trailer, and he's in the bus, and he does the little, power up thing. He gets in a stance, whatever stance that is. They're heading into a tunnel, and what you see is the lights on the tunnel start kind of blowing up around him. And I am convinced they did that on purpose. If you go watch a Dragon Ball Z clip of them powering up and you see this yellow, flame and stuff start to go around them, I'm convinced they did that on purpose as a visual cue to just sort of emphasize him getting in this power up. I think it's brilliant. I think that's great staging of a scene.
I like the fact that they also, if you noticed, you may not have noticed this because I think it's in the second trailer, Arch. You can also the 10 rings can be projected off of your arm as like a weapon. You know what I mean? Like they'll come off and like you can almost like shoot them. Like that's how they're doing it.
Spoilers, bro.
Like, they can be extended. You know what I mean? Which is interesting.
You just wrecked it for him. You just wrecked it for him.
I'm sorry, Arch. So I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm in agreement with Cyber. I really am. That second trailer that Arch didn't see is so good that literally when I saw that first Shang-Chi trailer, I was 50-50 on it. But when I saw that second trailer, I was like, oh shit. Like, seriously? Like, at that point, like, as far as I'm concerned, I think Shang-Chi might be just as good as Doctor Strange 2. And I think Doctor Strange 2 is going to be freaking magnificent. So, we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you, as far as the Black Widow film goes, to get back to like, the central key point of this whole show, let me get a 1 through 10 from you, Cyber, on the Black Widow film.
I'd give it a solid 8. 8 out of 10.
Do you want to expound?
Expound?
Yes.
You mean expand?
No, expound.
Expound. Okay. I would like to expound.
Wait, Yvonne, is expound not a word?
I'm looking it up right now. Hold on.
Oh man. You're trying to I'm trying to shame me now. Gonna try to shame me. That's okay. Go ahead, Cyber.
No, you're right. Expound is a word.
Anyways, I mean, solid 8 out of 10. Like I said, those few bit pieces, like I was saying earlier, that I feel that weren't complete. That's why I give it an 8 out of 10, and that's pretty much basically what it is.
Hey, that's pretty fair, I think, Cyber, that you gave it an 8 out of 10. I mean, honestly, I think it's pretty fair from you. I didn't expect that, to be honest with you. I thought you'd have a lower number. Arch, how many rings do you want to give Black Widow?
Could you skip me and go to Yvonne just for a second?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I gave it on Sakara in just a second.
Yes. Right. Yvonne, what's your rating? Black Widow, what's your rating?
I give it a 10. I give it a 10. Sorry, Cyber. I give it a 10. I think for an MCU film, if you've been following along, they don't have to point out the obvious. You know, at this point, they've taught us long enough to look for those clues, to look for the things, you know, that have deeper meaning. You know, I saw so many tweets after where people are like, do people not know MCU movies are supposed to stay in the seat? Like, so many people laughed after, and I'm like, oh, what is this generation? We have to retrain them on everything that's happening. Anyway, Black Widow, I think it was fantastic. I liked how it was all wrapped up, and I loved it. And I'll watch it again and again because I bought it on Disney.
Well, I agree with you, Yvonne. I'll give it a 10 out of 10 too, Yvonne. I agree with you as usual. I got to tell you right now, you know, you single men out there, you don't understand how like valuable MC women are. Like, Yvonne's husband is a lucky man. Let me just put it to you that way. But
he is a very lucky man.
Okay. I like that. I like that confidence. I like that spunkiness. Arch, how many rings are you giving Black Widow?
Well, we're not doing rings here, but so I love that this song came back up. I should have mentioned it. I love that this American Pie came back up, and they started singing. They started singing that, and they got to the part where they said, "This will be the day that I die." So I love the fact that there were a bunch of widows in it, and I will take all of the widows on the day that I die. So that's what I rated it.
All right, David R.
It's too meta.
David R. It's a solid film. It did have a few just let it happen moments. He gave it a 9 out of 10. David, I agree with you. I do. We'll definitely be personally. David R. happens to be actually a good friend of mine. You know, I'll be talking to him, I'm sure, shortly. I think I just tried to call him yesterday. But he's a busy guy, so hard to get a hold of sometimes. But so essentially, as far as I'm concerned, you know, wrapping things up, I feel like, for me, I feel like altogether, I've heard some, you know, I've heard the criticisms. I've listened to the negative reviews and everything for the film. I don't care. I'm not trying to make some kind of major statement or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, when I sat in that movie theater and watched that film, once I settled in, that movie was absolutely wonderful. Well done, well written. The visuals were great. The end scene where Black Widow was flying through the air and everything after Dreykov's like base blew up and shit, and Taskmaster was pursuing her and everything was awesome. And you know, like, look, of course there's going to be people out there who are going to be like, oh, Jeff's biased because it's Black Widow and like it's Scarlett Johansson and she's an original 6 Avenger, so of course he's giving it a 10 and blah 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 and whatever. Look, the whole scene where Natasha meets Yelena for the first time in however long and they fight seemed very fake to me. Like, I thought it was kind of stupid, to be honest with you. I did. That was the one thing where I was like, this does nothing for me. Like, this does not even seem authentic at all. But overall, it was a great movie. But here, guys, this was a great show. Let's wrap things up really quick. Let me go around and give everybody a chance to plug whatever the hell you want and shout out whoever you want and, you know, whatever. Arch, you got anything?
Yeah, I'll just second that. I just finalized that I love this film. I love that it's kind of the Bond film of the MCU, but also a really deeply personal one. I thought it fits a unique niche. It's not the same as the rest of them. It's got this unique flavor to it. I thought it was fantastic. Just really quickly again, I know you mentioned Sakar earlier, but anybody is welcome to join us. Sakar.freeforums.net. It's just a fun fan site. We talk MCU a lot, but we talk anything else. If you're a DC fan, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a Star Trek fan, or any other thing, it doesn't even have to be that nerdy. So just show up. It's a great group of people. We're all friendly and open to everybody's ideas. So we'd love to have you on.
Cyber.
The usual, you know, people definitely check out my my other solo content besides the MCU's Bleeding Edge, of course, on YouTube as well, under Cybernetic Shark. If you don't know my name, it's right here. It's Cybernetic Shark. Anyways, but yeah, definitely check that stuff out. Me and Jeff are both on Rizzle. We're both on Clapper. We're both on Rumble, where we put up content all the time for you on there, you know, and stuff like that. You know, also on, I do some TikTok myself too as well, but we're on there doing stuff, and it's always a joy. Especially Rizzle, I would say, is the best out of the platforms. Clapper's doing pretty well too, I think. So that one's a good one to check out if you get a chance. Little short little videos, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely check out our website, the MCU's Bleeding Edge.com, .org, .net, whatever the hell it is. What is it again?
The MCU's bleedingedge.org, Cyber. It's my fault.
.org.
I should have told you already.
.org, people. Definitely check out our website. We're putting up posts and all that kind of good stuff on there too.
We got a blog. We got a blog.
We have blogs. Yep, we got a blog. You'll find out about upcoming shows and stuff like that on there too as well. So definitely check that out. And you know, check me and Jeff's stuff out. We're awesome. We're the MCU's Bleeding Edge.
Yeah, man. Hey, everybody out there, join Rizzle. Get on Rizzle, man. Like, seriously. I mean, if you're trying to make money, you're like be monetized or whatever, good luck with that on Rizzle. But like, as far as having a good time and like making friends and stuff, like, hey, you know, if I did never join Rizzle, I never would have been able to be friends with Cyber. So like, yeah, I'm pretty damn happy that I ended up getting, you know, a great friend. And at the same time, I'm about to hit 10 million views and 200,000 subscribers on Rizzle. So I think I did okay. But Yvonne, you want to plug anything here?
I have my own podcast, On the Road to Damascus. We're actually just taking a break, getting ready for season 3. So we have previous content you can check out. Other than that, I have a website, www.damascusexperience.com. And you can go check that out. We have blogs and well, it's actually been there for a little bit, but now we're actively doing stuff. So.
Oh man, I was gonna say you never told me about that.
Yeah, we bought the domain so we can have it, but now we're rolling it out now. So it's pretty excited. So yeah.
Well, you're going to bring me on the podcast at some point, right? Like we haven't talked about that in a long time. Like, you know, I want a guest on there.
I'm planning out for the next year right now. So once I get that planned out and I know what it looks like, because I plan a year in advance. I'm an Uber planner.
Am I not like a strict enough Christian to be like qualified to be on the show, or?
No, that's not that at all. It's what your story and what month we're bringing it in. That's all that it is.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. Because I'm pretty risque. So, I mean, you know, I can understand.
I'm on this show with you and I own the company. So I think I'm pretty good.
I'm just joking. I'm just playing. I would hope so. Come on now. You and I are pretty good friends, Yvonne. So, like, shit. Yeah. I would be a little bit disappointed if I never got to come on the podcast. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
slated in there. I just got to pick the month that it's going to be put on.
And I'll be there. You better believe it. The seat will be filled. I'll tell you that right now. And it will be, and I'll tell you right now too. you know, people may like me or dislike me, but when I guest on your show, like I bring something to the table. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a subtraction, I'm an addition.
Well, as long as you can bring as much charisma as I bring to your show, then I think we're good.
Hey, it's just like the same kind of situation. Like if you try to like, if you try to get at me physically or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like you might win, I might win, you might lose, I might lose, but you're going to walk away fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like things aren't going to be good for you the next day. So like, you know what I mean? Like it's that simple. But shout out. I'm watching Daredevil right now. Daredevil is freaking awesome. I'm telling you right now, if you're an MCU fan, if you're anybody out there, if you want to watch a really great show, watch Daredevil because it's freaking awesome.
Have you never seen Daredevil, or is this a first run for you?
I finished the first season yesterday. I'm like 4 episodes into season 2 right now.
I love season 2. I love season 2.
Punisher, baby. What else is there to say? The
so
Punisher, baby. And John Bernthal even looks like the Punisher.
100%. Everything Punisher in that season is world class, and you should just hold into Punisher season 1 when you get done with that.
Most definitely. I will drop the trailer on here or whatever. But hey, just real quick, Kevin Feige, just so you know, we'd appreciate it over here at the MCU's Bleeding Edge if you would just lock up John Bernthal and the Punisher real quick and just go ahead and drop him into the MCU. Like not having a Punisher kind of blows. So like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that you've been acquired by Disney and this and that and whatever, but figure out how to do the Punisher so that like it's done the right way and everything so we can enjoy it, please. You know, anyways, so all right, guys, it was really good to see all of you again. You know, sorry about the awkward moment there for a minute, but I was just unfortunately thinking about Captain Marvel 2 and like how potentially horrible it's going to be. So that's why I kind of stopped there for a minute. But I was having an image of there for a minute and I was like, oh. But anyways, guys, listen, it was great to see all of you again. My friends, my family, the MCU's Bleeding Edge, Cyber, you have a good night, sir. Arch,
you too.
I will see you on Sakar. Yvonne, I love you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Touch with me, okay? Don't be a stranger. You are literally your guest spot is always warm and like and open for you. So no matter where you end up on your travail or your path, you've got a spot.
Got it.
All right, everybody. Oh, you know what? I got to do the outro.